Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we will be looking at the Spanish game, which is played with white in the Ruy Lopez opening, and it is an opening that even I play with white. So I've played about 60 to 70 games in this opening. If I count only tournament games, I'd say about 20 to 30. I earlier just used to play the normal e4 e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 setup, and I used to find it very boring. Like, I wouldn't go Gyuko piano or Jiko piano, however you pronounce it. I'd just after bishop to c5, I'd go knight to c3, not even c3. So I used to find that really boring. Then I tried the Vienna game. I didn't find any initiative in that position either. So this was I think the best alternative there was to all the other openings that I used to play, and that's why I decided to show it to you today. And also, it's not very theoretical. There's just one main setup you have as white, and that's one thing on this channel I always do. Any opening that I show, I mainly try to show the main setup, but this opening there's literally just one setup. So here obviously the Ruy Lopez goes with bishop to b5, and here obviously black goes a6. This is the main line. Obviously there are side lines which go like d6. Now for d6, I think the best move would be d4 after takes, queen takes d4, or you can take first bishop takes e6, and after takes queen takes d4. Anyways, this is an opening for another day, a variation for another day. Today we'll be looking at the a6 variation, which is again the main line and the most commonly played line. So obviously you go back bishop to a4, and black continues with his normal knight to f6 development. Now here I've seen a lot of players play castle, and I think this is not the Spanish game, this is a different variation. But what castling actually allows is for some openings like this, which is the Marshall counter attack, or there are many other sharp lines in this variation, and using like uh, castle, you need to know a lot of side lines. But the easiest way to reach the Spanish setup without a lot of preparation work is queen to e2. It just protects the e4 pawn from the knight, and black can't attack it anymore. So here we're followed by pawn to b5, and you have to retreat your bishop back to safety. Again, here there are two moves which I've seen, the main being bishop to e7. Obviously bishop to c5 is also a very good move, as it's the most active square for the bishop. But in this situation, white will, as you see I've marked, after he goes with his normal c3 d3 setup, he will try to exploit the pin he'll get on g5, which obviously you might think is not a big deal at the moment, but it eventually leads to a lot of problems for black. So if you're black and you play this opening, bishop to c5, although is a good move, I'm not saying it's bad, bishop to e7 is always the better move. As you know, there's always a better move in chess. So I mean, if you play bishop to c5, it's perfectly fine, but obviously, as I said, so the move here is c3. After castle you have d3. Obviously d6 would be the move, and if you go to h6, you're again after castle d6, something like bishop to e3, and obviously you're forced, and after takes, what you're doing, you're helping white get something like a knight f5, queen f3, queen g3, and like knight to d2. And if you're white, these are all your plans. You'd want to go knight to h4, knight to f5, even try to exploit this beautiful diagonal you have as with the white squared bishop, light squared bishop, and you can always use this open file to your advantage. So that's always there. And also, if black goes immediately d6 here instead of going g6, you can go bishop to g5, and that's what I was talking about. Now that black's bishop is not an e7, this pin can be quite resourceful for white. Obviously black can go for this setup, but it's not always good to attack on both sides. Now you realize you have similar setups here. Not recommended, so he usually won't do it, and therefore this pin remains for the remainder of the middle game. And I think a lot of times this kind of move is played: bishop to g4, after h3, bishop to h5. I see this move: takes, and now something like bishop to d5, just trying to be cheeky and trying to win the exchange. So you can always use some sort of tricks like this if black's not careful, and that's one of the reasons. But it also works with bishop to e7, as I will be showing. Like, bishop to c5 is not the only place where you can exploit that bishop to d5 move. So anyways, bishop to e7 being the main line, we'll continue with that. And now we have two moves again, c3 being the main line. Also, you can play a4. It's not a bad move, but it's just a novelty. Like, recently players have started playing that. It's also a very good idea, as it helps white to attack black's weaknesses on the queen side, and it's also kind of developing the rook on a1 right here. So we have rook to b8, which is kind of forced. A takes b5, a takes b5, and knight to c3. Well, one, it's developing the knight. Also, it's targeting b5, and you can always go knight to d5, and you have this open file all to yourself. So this can also be a very good idea for white. But if you want to continue with the main line, the move would be c3. And after castles, which is forced again, here you can either go d4, which is the game I will be showing you all, or you can go castle, which is the main line. And after something like d6, rook to d1, and this is basically where the line ends. But what are your ideas here with white? Well, for starters, when you play this queen e2 setup, your idea is to go rook to d1, so that you kind of have an x-ray attack eyeing the queen, as well as pawn to d4 coming up. So some of the things you can do is go d3, take out your bishop to g5 or e3, knight d2, knight f1, and either take it out on g3 or e3, and then push d4. If you want extra support on e4, you can always go bishop to c2, although this diagonal can be very resourceful. And once you get to knight to g3, you can always target something like knight to f5, or go knight to h4 and knight to f5. Just build on the king side attack. So anyways, guys, that was the line, and now I wanted to show you guys a game which was played in 2007 in a tournament happening in Europe. It was between Alex Fedorov versus Romanov, and they're just 2,600 and 2,500 rated respectively. So the game was about similar till we have queen to e2, b5, bishop b3. We had bishop to e7, c3, castle, and here white went immediately d4, which is actually a very good move as well. It's kind of the more aggressive idea with white if you just want to straight away break through. And this game is actually very nice to watch. We have d6 protecting. He didn't want to exchange immediately. Knight to d2, takes, bishop to g4, queen to e3, getting away from the pin so that d4 is protected right over here. We have rook to e8, castle, bishop to f8. Now e5 is kind of forced. Takes, knight to d5, queen to e4, bishop to e6, rook to d1, and f5. I think it was kind of a blunder here. I don't think black calculated well, because after takes, bishop to f7 kind of forced, queen to h4, queen takes, knight to g5, h6, and a beautiful knight to e4 move. Queen to f5, takes, and after queen takes e4, black resigned, because after queen takes e4, bishop takes d5, and white's an exchange and a pawn up. So if you guys want, you can always look at the game again. I think I went a little fast, but just the fact that he exploited the center and his development goes to show how good this opening can be used for white. So anyways, guys, that was the video. If you did enjoy, hit the like and subscribe button, and comment down below if you have any suggestions for any future videos, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.